Hello guys, as an introduction to the unit of piecewise functions, I'm going to talk to you about three important things that you need to take into account in order to understand this whole topic, okay? So the three things are, we're going to talk about the equation of a function, which we already practiced during our first unit. We are also going to talk about the domain of a function and then evaluating a function. All these we've worked already, but now we're going to put them together in order to understand piecewise functions, okay? A piecewise function is basically a composition of two or more different functions, and these functions are delimited by the x values. So, in order to understand that, let's begin. First, let's remember how to find out the equation of a function. I have two lines over here. The first one is a straight line. I know it's a linear function, so if I want to obtain the equation of that function, I just take into account two things, the y-intercept and the slope. As you can notice, the y-intercept here is located at 4, so b is 4, and then just in order to find out what the slope is, I go from one point to another, easy to identify point, maybe this one. And as you notice, you have to go down 2 units and go 1 unit to the right. In this case, you go down 2 and 1 to the right, so the slope is -2. With that information, I can already know the equation of that function. It's -2x plus 4. Now, on the other hand, let's take a look at this line. This is a horizontal line, so those are y equals a constant, and in this case this line intersects at 2, so y equals 2. Okay, this is the first thing you need to know. About the domain of a function is the boundaries it has between x values. So I always take into account the values on the x-axis in order to identify where it starts and where it finishes. When you see the arrows, you know that it starts at -infinity and ends at infinity as well. Both of them have it. So at this point, it would be irrelevant. But let's say that this green line is going to start from this point, right? And then I'm going to make it finish at this point right here. So now talking about domain makes more sense, or it's more clear because we have a defined boundary or defined boundaries. So in this case, you start at this point. What is the x value of this point? It's a 0 right here, and the end point is right here where x is 2. So this function that has this equation has a domain of 0 and 2, meaning that it goes just from this point to this point. Now let's take a look at this one. I'm going to give a boundary from this point, starting from here, right? And then I'm going to let it just go up to this point, all right? So now if I'm going to determine the boundary of this line, I know that it goes from 2 and then it reaches 3, 4 until 5. All right, and that's how you determine the domain. Now finally, evaluating a function. Let's take a look, because now we are combining sort of these two functions. I want to know what is the y value depending on what x value I choose. If I'm standing here at 1, when x is 1, can you see that the value of the y is 2? But if I'm standing on 3, well, it is also 2, coincidentally. But let's say that I am standing now at 0. What is the value? The value is 4. So depending on when you're or where you're standing, you will have that value. And especially in combinations here, this is now we put them together, and I'm going to determine that this is a piecewise function. How? Well, the function in green here is telling you this. This is a new function, and that's why we're going to call it a piecewise function, because it has 1 and 2 pieces. I know that this function is this line, negative 2x plus 4, if, I'm going to move a little bit, if you go from 0 to 2, so the x values are limited to 0 and 2, okay? You start at 0 and you end at 2, but you continue with the function, but now the function takes this value, y equals 2, for any value that is between, we are not including 2, it was included here, so it starts from 2 and ends in 5, right? So this is the whole definition of this piecewise function that has two portions, this one and this one. Okay, that's it.